Hey, Vic, welcome to the show.
Hey, Tom, great to be with you.
Absolutely. It's great to have you.
Greetings from Florida.
Yeah, welcome. So, if you haven't met Vic yet, Vic Johnson is the author of several best-selling books, and some have been translated into Japanese, Russian, Czech, Slovak, and even Farsi. He's appeared in numerous video programs with Bob Proctor, Jim Rohn, Tracy, Denis, Waitley, Mark Victor Hansen, and many others. And he is the founder of asamanthinketh.net, one of my first and most favorite personal development websites I found when I was just getting started over 10 years ago. So Vic, it's great to have you.
Yeah. Looking forward to it.
Tell us about your background, how you got started in the personal development industry.
Because I was a student, I had a big need. 19 years ago, this month, as a matter of fact, my life was pretty upside down. We had been evicted from our home the year before. We lost our last automobile. We lived below the U.S. poverty level. In fact, 19 years ago, when I filed my federal tax return, the net income was $14,027. That was the taxable income for the entire year for a family of five. And this month marks a big month for me, because it was this month 19 years ago, in the middle of all of that I scraped together a few pennies. And I went to a seminar, a personal development seminar in Jacksonville, Florida. And I heard a lady say from stage 13 words that changed my life. And she said, "The size of your success is determined by the size of your belief." And those words came out of the magic of thinking big. But when I read those words, they didn't hit me like they did that night. And I went home and went to work on my belief. And the next year I made a six-figure income. So from $14,027 to over $100,000. Within a couple more years, I had a six-figure business, and a couple more years after that, a seven-figure business. So I've been from one end to the other end, and personal development was a lifesaver for me. When I was earning $14,027, it allowed me to look inside and to figure out that none of the problems in my life were created on the outside. They were all created on the inside. And that my life was simply a reflection of what was going on the inside. And so I loved it so much that when I decided I would try something on the internet, I said, what better thing could I do than offer that little 28-page book that radically changed my life and the way that I think. And that's how As a Man Thinketh came along.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. So when you talk about changing the size of your belief and really working on that, what did you actually do? What were some of the things that you did day in, day out to kind of change your mindset?
Well, the first thing is that all of our self-limiting beliefs, all the things that we say to ourselves, and sometimes they started because other people said them to us and we believed them, like "you're stupid," or you're fat, or whatever. We started believing those things. And then other things are just from our own experience. And we've created all of these beliefs that are false. But we believe them because they seem real to us. And I like to use the example of, in the 1500s, everyone thought the world was flat. And they believed it. To them, that was the truth. Now, think about every day how many decisions were made based on the idea and the belief that the earth was flat. I mean, you wouldn't, if you're in a boat, you wouldn't go too far. You'd feel like you'd sail. A lot of decisions made by people based on a lie. Well, we know the truth now is that the world is not flat, and we can look back and say, how did they ever believe that? But for hundreds and thousands of years, they did believe that. And so you have to change the lies inside. You have to change the ideas that you have. So I dropped out of college. And actually, I didn't drop out of college. They asked me to leave. So I went around for a long time with this self-limiting belief that I couldn't succeed because I had dropped out of college. Because what do you get? I mean, you get, what does our culture do? Our culture says, oh, you got to get a degree. The degree is important. You can't go anywhere in life if you don't have a degree. Well, that's not true. I think a degree helps. I would have liked to have had a degree. But, one day when I woke up and learned what the truth was, the truth is it doesn't matter what education you have. I had to look at Bill Gates, who at the time was the richest man in the world. Bill Gates dropped out of college. He doesn't have a degree, never went back and got a degree. He's done okay. He's done okay. So, that was a lie that I had to get rid of. It was the lie that you hear that it takes money to make money. I grew up with that. I heard that growing up. It takes money to make money. It doesn't take money to make money. It takes an idea to make money. And if you have an idea, you can find the money. And so those are the kind of things that I had to change. And the way that I changed them was I had to first discover the truth. You got to go back through all these things that are holding you back. I get up and I'm speaking in front of an audience, and I get on the subject of ADD or ADHD. You do not want to say to me that you're not successful because you have ADD or ADHD. You don't want to say that to me if I'm speaking on stage and you're in the audience, because 300 of the 500 CEOs of the Fortune 500 companies have ADD or ADHD. It's a gift. If it's used right, it is a tremendous, tremendous gift. And I happen to have a lower case of ADD and ADHD. So I know that it's turned out to be a huge, phenomenal gift in my life, but I could have used it as a reason to be a failure. And, so I looked at these truths, I discovered the truths, and then I created a positive affirmation for each one of them. And I wrote them out because at the time I didn't have very much money. So I had a bunch of old business cards that had a bad address on them, and I couldn't use them. I couldn't hand them out, but I still had the box. So I took the box and I X'd out the face of the business card, flipped it over on the back, and I wrote out by hand 52, which happens to be the number of cards in a deck of cards. I wrote out 52 affirmations of the truth. And I put them in a stack, and I put a rubber band around them, and I made 2 sets of them. One set went on my desk, one set went in my car. So one of my affirmations was to deal with my time thing. I always felt like I never had enough time. I was late. I was constantly running late. I was constantly missing deadlines. And all the time I'm telling myself, you don't ever have enough time. You're always short on time. Well, the truth is, I did have enough time. I do have enough time, because there are people that have done a whole lot more with less time than I've had to do it. So the truth is, and I still to this day, 20 years later, or almost 20 years later, I always have enough time to do everything I need to do. I always have enough time to do everything I need to do. Now, the truth is I don't have enough time to do everything I want to do, but I always have enough time to do everything I need to do. So that means some days when I'm running on a deadline, rather than getting flustered and rather than psyching myself out and rather than that self-doubt of not having enough time, instead, that switch goes on that says, no, the truth is you have enough time. You're going to make this. You always have enough time. So I changed the programming. Within 90 days of me going through that, so every day I would read these. I would pull up to a stoplight, and I'd be in my car, and I'd reach over and grab a couple of cards, and I'd read them out loud. I know the people drove up next to me, probably thought I was nuts, but I was driving a 15-year-old borrowed car because I didn't have one. I didn't own one anymore. And it was so small and I'm so big, it looked like Fred Flintstone in the car anyway. So they were probably laughing at me regardless of what the fact that I was talking to myself. I would read it constantly through the day when they were on my desk. And within 90 days, the impact was amazing, because I had begun, just by changing this and changing my responses and my beliefs, I had begun to attract people and circumstances into my life. And that was the beginning of what I've manifested today. So, all those years, it took me 50 years to write my first book, Tom, because I had these limited beliefs that, I wasn't worthy of it. I didn't deserve it. I couldn't do it. It was too hard or whatever. It took me 50 years to do that. Just in a few years, I've done 13 that I've personally written, published another 65 that I commissioned someone else to write, that have, were ghostwritten that we put other names on the cover. So I'm going to publish 3 books this year, almost in my sleep. So it was all in overcoming the limiting belief that I couldn't do it, that I wasn't worthy of it, that, hey, I flunked English. If you flunk English, you can't possibly write a book, can you? Yes, you can. Yes, you can. So I don't know whether that was the answer or the in-depth you were looking for, but
That's great.
that's how I ended up. That's how I ended up in personal development.
That's awesome. So, one of the big complaints I hear people say about, like affirmations is like, they don't work. It's, it's kooky. It's crazy stuff. And a lot of people just say, I tried it, but it didn't work. What do you think makes the difference between someone who tries these personal development strategies, whether it's affirmations or setting goals or something totally different? What's the difference that you've seen from people who try something and fail and try something and make it work for them?
If it is a legitimate principle, if it is a proven technique and it doesn't work, it's only one of two things. You either haven't done enough of it or you're not doing it right. One of the two things. So the right way to do an affirmation is to have some emotion in it. When you affirm yourself, when you say, I know I can do this. I know I can do this. When you affirm yourself, it has to be with emotion. And the same way that you got programmed to begin with was, first the programming was introduced, and then there were things to support that. Either you supported it or someone else supported it till you began to believe it. So you can't just do the affirmation right, but you have to do enough of it. And then the one thing you have to add to it, this is where most people fail. They don't act on it. So you affirm yourself, I always have enough time to do everything I want to do. And then the first time it doesn't appear to be true, what do? They freak and they go back to the same response they used to have. It takes some determination to overcome our natural ability or not ability, but our natural willingness to fall back into the old patterns until you change them, until you change the response. But yeah, affirmations sound kooky, except when you stop and think about it. Only some of the most successful people in the world have ever used them. And Napoleon Hill in Think and Grow Rich talks about affirmations, and he talks about the power of taking your goals and writing them out and reading them every day, twice a day. And I'm trying to think of his name now, the African-American gentleman on the Shark Tank. You know who I'm talking about? Damon John. Phenomenal story about Think and Grow Rich. Because you know what? He was so broke. He was looking for an answer. He actually believed what he read. So he did it. And every night before he went to bed and every morning when he got up, he read his card. Damon John, go read it. Go read the story on him. To this day, every time he gets a new goal, he does the same thing. He still affirms himself constantly. Now, with my cards, my affirmation cards, what I did, Tom, I was desperate. I mean, when you make $14,000 in a day, I know you've made $14,000 in a day. When you make $14,000 in a day, you stop and think, geez, it took me a whole year to do that. How miserable is that? So you stop and you think, my goodness, what is it? So you have to first of all be committed to the fact that you got to change. And then it comes down to being willing to do whatever it takes. I made a decision. I got tired of the power getting cut off. When you got 3 kids and the power gets cut off, the phone gets cut off, the cable got cut off. I thought it was a pretty good thing. So for 5 years, we didn't have cable TV. My kids learned an awful lot during those 5 years. And, not having lunch money some days. You want to talk about feeling rotten and miserable. So I was desperate. And so I was maniacal. I mean, I would read those affirmation cards all day long. I was working, but I'm reading those things all day long. I had to do it. I had to change something, and I felt like that would work for me. But I never missed an opportunity either to put it into action. So if I'm sitting there and I'm affirming myself in some area, and I'm telling myself the truth, I'm going to look for a way to put that into action. When you take an affirmation now and you act on it, now it anchors it in your subconscious. And you do that enough, now you've replaced the old programming with the new programming. That's all it is. We're programmed. All of us are programmed. You can either let your boss program you, and if you do, guess what? You're going to be running the boss's program. Or you can program yourself. And Spouses can program you, children can program you, parents can program you, teachers, whatever, or you can program yourself.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that. I love what you said that, either you're not doing it enough or you're not doing it the right way. And I think that's true with just about anything in life. If you haven't achieved your goals that you're looking for yet, either you haven't done enough of it or you're not doing it the right way.
You would be amazed by, and I teach, I have a group that meets once a week from around the world called the Champions Club. And that comes up so much about, well, Vic, I've been working on my goals and I'm just not getting anywhere. And I said, okay, open up your calendar. Let's look at your calendar. Because usually what I find, so in every goal, there is one or more core activities, things that you have to do repetitively. So I use the example that if you want to run in the Boston Marathon, what would be the core activity to reach the goal of running in the Boston Marathon? Well, you better be running every day. That's a core activity. That's something you got to do. There's so many people that when they start off on a goal, they'll do everything but the core activity. Usually the core activity, we don't want to do it because it's the same thing every day, over and over and over and over. So what I find with most people with their goals is I go look at their calendar and I go, well, I don't know how you really expected to achieve the goal because last week you only had one day where you did the core activity. And you already determined when you started the goal that everyone who had ever achieved that goal was doing 5 days of it. So I don't know, I guess my pointer's been in your face. I hope that doesn't get recorded. The repetition is the mother of success. And, it's got to be the right practice. Practice makes perfect if it's perfect practice. And if you do enough of it, if you're willing to do the repetition, you can make some amazing things happen in your life. I decided late in life that I wanted to play golf. And so 3 years ago, I started playing golf, and I was playing a couple of times a week. I was having a miserable time because I really, it was hard to pick up the game and hard to make it work. And then about a year and a half ago, I said, I want to be a bogey golfer. That's my goal. That's what I want to do. And in order to do that, I said, well, I've got to get up every day. So I get up every morning and I go play 9 holes of golf, and I get up early, like at 6 o'clock in the morning, 6:30 in the morning. I do not like to get up early. I've never gotten up early in my whole life. I live on the east side of a lake, so I can see the sun go down. I don't want to see the sun come up. And I've told people that if God wanted me to see the sunrise, he'd have put it about noon. Because that's when, I'd like to stay up late and, do things and then get up late. Well, I had to change all of that because I had a goal. And so in the last year and a half of doing that, I've cut about 15 strokes off my game. I achieved the goal of being a bogey golfer. Last 2 weeks ago, playing with my youngest son, I had the lowest 9-hole score that I've ever had, a 39. So you take 39 times 2, that's a 78. I break 80. Only been doing it 3 years. And I'm going to, my goal is to shoot my age. So I've got a lot of work to do, but I have to do it every day. I have to get out there at least 5 days a week. I have to go do it. That's the repetition that's required. And if people understood, and this, you've done so many things and done them well, success is not that complicated. It's not that complicated. We complicate everything that we do. Success actually is pretty simple. It's not easy. And people confuse those words. They think easy and simple are the same two words. It's not. They're two different words. But I'd rather something be simple. If it's simple, I understand it. I can grasp it. I don't have to have any special training. I can just go do these simple things. Do this every day, or do this 3 days a week, or do this whatever. If you tell me what I got to do, and if you'll show me that someone else has done that and become successful doing that, I'm done. I'm with you. I'm on board. I'm all in, because I understand that finding someone who's already succeeded at what you want to do, discovering what they did to become successful, study it in depth, and then duplicate exactly what they did, by the universal laws, you will have to become successful because you're doing the same principles. And that's the old Greek formula for success, over 2,500 years old. And that's what they first taught. I was in Greece a couple of months ago, and that's what they taught. in the old Greece, the old days of Greece, was to become successful, duplicate people who've already become successful. And the way you do that is to determine what they did and then do that. And so many times we want to complicate it. It's not that complicated.
Absolutely. Well, what do you say to people who think that, to be successful is just hard work? You just have to put in the hours and just put in the time. Is it just the hard work, or because we've been talking a lot about, the affirmations, the mindset, right? Can you just do the hard work without the other stuff and still be successful?
If it were only hard work, Tom, I know a lot of poor people that would be rich. I've seen some really hardworking people who were broke. At one time I was broke and I was working pretty hard. So hard work is not the answer. And again, in Think and Grow Rich, Hill comes to the same conclusion after interviewing 500 of the most successful people of the day. It's important to work. You can't sit on the couch and meditate about it and chant and do affirmations or anything else. You can do all the affirmations in the world you want to do. But if you don't get up off that couch and take some action, then you won't be successful. So the question is are you taking enough action, and are you taking enough of the right action? Going back to the same, analogy I used earlier. And that doesn't necessarily mean you're working harder. And I really don't like the old aphorism of working smarter, because I don't think it's that. The biggest thing I see is people aren't focused enough on doing the things they need to do. They're working hard, okay? But if you stop and you broke it down, you'd find out that interspersed with that working hard is a lot of wasted time. I'll tell you, Facebook has cost more people more money. Now, I've made a lot of money on Facebook, and you probably have too. But it's cost a lot of people millions and millions of dollars because they spend all their time on it. When I go on Facebook, I'm not on there to socialize. I'm on there to tweak my ads. I'm on there to figure out how I can get a better message, how I can deliver more service, how I can get in front of a bigger audience. I'm not on there to socialize. Oh, do I? Yeah, I've got a personal page. And, we post pictures of grandchildren and, trips that we take and stuff like that. But I'm not on there for hours a day with the social. I might go on once or twice a week for 35, 40 minutes at a time to catch up, to post, to whatever. The rest of the time I'm on Facebook, I'm in the ad manager. And I'm so excited. I don't know when they did it, but used to, if you were online, if you were on Facebook, all your friends could see it. And so they're constantly PMing you. And that would just really, I was really angry about that because I was trying to work. And so now I guess I got something turned on right or whatever. And now when I'm on, nobody knows I'm on, and I can get all my work done. Focus. You can go out and you can work really, really hard. And I know people that they work really, really hard. And at the end of the day, they really haven't gotten anywhere, but they work hard. Physically, they're worn out. They go home, they don't feel like doing anything. They barely can eat. They watch a little TV and they fall in bed and they're tired. You got to sit down every day at the end of the day, and you got to look at your calendar. And if you don't have a calendar, and if you're not operating off of a calendar, you don't really stand much of a chance to succeed either. At the end of the day, you cannot, and Jim Rohn taught this, you cannot begin tomorrow until you finish today. And what finishing today means is, number one, I evaluate what I did today. I grade myself and what I did today. Did I measure up today? Did I stay focused today? Did I get the things done I said I was going to get done? And some days I don't. So I have to reschedule those, delegate those, or delete it. I call it SDD. So you schedule, delegate, or delete. And then as the last step, I can't finish today until I already know what I'm doing tomorrow. So I don't wake up in the morning and go put my calendar together. I wake up in the morning and go to work. I'm in action when I start because my calendar's already done. It's done the night before. I know exactly what I'm doing tomorrow. Now, Yeah, emergencies happen. Things happen that I wasn't counting on. I wake up and we got somebody attack one of our sites, and I can't find my tech guy, or I mean, all those kind of things. But when I get through with the crisis, I just go right back to my calendar. And otherwise, people come in and they go, well, I'll go in and I'll do my calendar when I get in, and then the crisis happens. They get through with the crisis. It's 11 o'clock. It's 11:30. They haven't done anything for today, and it's time to go to lunch. So that's how people can go all day, and you look back and they really didn't get anything done. And that's when you get down on yourself, and that's when you kick yourself. And so I think it's part of preparation. I love Bobby Knight. I think you're an Indiana guy, aren't you? I love Bobby Knight. He's just he's a great guy in a lot of ways. He's a flawed guy, but aren't we all? But Bobby Knight says everybody has the will to win, but not everybody has the will to prepare to win. And that's, I think, preparation and being prepared and being committed to do that. So, you tell me you want to be successful, and I say, are you keeping a calendar? And you say, no. I says, well, go think about that, and I'll ask you later. I used to do coaching. I don't do any more of it, but I used to do personal coaching. And we'd finish a session with, and you probably do this with your folks, we'd finish a session with an agreement on what the next steps were. So when we started the next call, my question for them was, have you done what we discussed on the last session? And if they said no, or they said some of them, I said, well, great, I'll talk to you next week. Finish those so we can move on. Because I'm not interested in having another session to talk about why you didn't do what we talked about in the last session. So those are the, small things. I think if most people made a few small changes, that's all it took for me. To go from $14,000 to a six-figure income in 1 year to a six-figure business in 2 years after that, and then in 3 years after that to a seven-figure business, that's pretty fast growth. And all of that came from here. It came from growth from within me. The more I grew, the more my business grew.
Absolutely. This is a lot of great stuff, and I'm loving it, Vic. Absolutely amazing. Good. And I love what you said about, the calendar. Like, I think that's such a crucial skill for success is scheduling it, like putting dates and times in where you're going to do those core activities, where you're going to write that book, where you're going to get it published. And then, like you said, with, the coaching call, like you didn't do it last week. Well, we're not going to talk until you get that done. Right. And that's not just something you need a coach to do. Like, you can do that to yourself. If you look back over your calendar last week, and say, so this last week, I was going to write 1,000 words in my book and I didn't. That needs to be like alarm bells going off if that's a real goal for you, because that means you're not moving towards your goal. Whether you think you are, you say you are, you've done your affirmations. If you haven't done the work, you're not moving towards your goal. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you're talking about, showing people how to write their book and getting them, motivating them to write their book, inspiring them to write their book. Every week I have a group that I meet with, and when I sign off, I say the same thing every week. I'll give them an example. So the first time you get your book and it's been translated into another language and you're holding in your hand this book. So my first book was published in Japan. In Japan, they read backwards from us. Well, guess what? That means the whole book is backwards from us. So that means the back cover is the front cover. So in Japan, you start on the back cover and you open it the opposite way. When I got that Japanese book in and I saw my name, that was the only thing that was in English. And I thought, well, they must have made a mistake. The back cover's printed here. And then I opened it up and saw the way that it's read. Just such an incredible feeling. The first time I got my book that was published in Russia, when they sent me the Russian version of it, and the only thing in English is my name. I share with my audience, I want you to experience that. That's why we get together every week, for you to experience. I've already experienced it. I want you to experience it. And, every month I get to look forward to, 20 or 30 ACHs going into my accounts for different Amazon companies and Apple and Barnes and Noble and all the others. And I said, I want you to experience that. I want you to see the power of that. And if you'll just take 15 minutes every day, just 15 minutes every day, and do something for 15 minutes on your book, at the end of 30 days, you won't have a book done, But you'll have so much done that you'll look back and go, oh my gosh, what if I'd have given it 30 minutes? And then you'll figure out a way to make 30 minutes. But everybody can make 15. You know, I say this, look, most of us get up every morning, we do the same thing. We brush our teeth. I hope you do. If you don't, your teeth are going to fall out. We brush our hair every morning. We make a cup of coffee, or we make a cup of tea or a cup of cocoa or whatever. We do the same thing every morning. Why? Because it's a habit. Well, if you make writing your book a habit, it doesn't have to be a big habit. 15 minutes is not big. That's small. You know, I made my getting up to go play golf every morning a habit. Some days I don't feel like getting up. Some days I'd rather lay there. But I know I can't meet my goal if I do. And so if I stop and think about that for a little bit, I kind of wake up and then I can't go back to sleep. And so I have to get up. You know, you trick yourself. You do whatever you got to do to get it to become a habit. When it becomes a habit, now I automatically wake up early every morning. I mean, it's sad. I can't even sleep late anymore because it's become a habit. Whatever you do repetitively becomes a habit. So if you want to write a book, start 15 minutes a day. You'll have a book. Before you know it, you'll have a book. And but if you don't, you'll never get around. You're never going to cram and write that book. Now, I wrote a book called You Can Write a Book This Weekend, and you can, but it takes some preparation to do that. It takes some commitment to do that. And even then, there's some habit in there that you have to adopt. So I would like to see, as I know you would, every single person that I deal with every day, I'd love to see them with a book. I mean, that would be, it's a cool experience when someone sends you the email and said, hey, I finally finished the book. And I'm so excited because you know how they feel inside, because you remember how you felt the first time inside, because that's something they can't take away from you. A small percentage of the people on this planet will ever write a book, only a very tiny percentage. And once you do it, no one can take that away from you. That is a badge that you get to wear for the rest of your life. Become a best-selling author, and you've got all kinds of tools and programs to help people do that. Become a best-selling author. Now you go into a very significantly small group of people that very, 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 very few people will ever achieve. And that's a badge they can't take from you either. And that all that goes inside. All of that's going inside. You will feel so good about yourself when you finish that first book. And I've had people tell me, you know, I look back and it wasn't as hard as I thought it was going to be, and it never is. We create all the obstacles ourselves.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I mean, that's something I've been preaching for years as well, is that like every obstacle we have in life, everything that's stopping us from achieving what we really want to achieve, it's not outside of us. It's all inside of us, right? There's no one who wakes up every day and is like, Vic, like, I'm going to make sure you're not successful today. Like, you don't have like an arch nemesis trying to hold you back. That's the arch nemesis is that little voice inside your head telling you you're not.
That's it. There is no one plotting right now that Tom will not get another book published. There's no one at all plotting that, thinking about it. They could care less. They're going to go about their own. They're worried about their own stuff. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So a big question for you, Vic, is when you have problems, challenges, life gets in the way, big obstacles, or maybe you're starting like a new venture and just don't know what to do, where do you go to find that information, or what processes do you go through to find the solution to a problem when you don't know the answer?
I'm always going to find someone who's already successfully addressed that. I mean, I'm going to go, my first step, I mean, I've never had an original thought in my life. I've never done anything originally in my life. I am the ultimate monkey see, monkey do. Okay. I just watch you. I can watch you and I can almost duplicate you very quickly. And I'm very good at that. And I respect copyright law and I respect trademark law, and I don't rip off anybody's trademarks or copyrights, but ideas are not subject to copyright or trademark. Concepts are not subject to copyright or trademark. So I can go look at your ideas and I can copy your ideas all day long, okay, as long as I don't infringe on your rights. And so what I do is anytime I'm starting something, I go study everyone who's successful in that field that I can find. I study everything about them. If I've got a problem, I go find someone who's had that problem. I've been in a number of masterminds, so nowadays I can a lot of times pick up the phone and call someone who I've actually have a relationship with who's run into that problem. So I'm always going to be looking to duplicate what someone else has already done. So if I if I have a problem, I find someone who's already overcome that problem. I study what they did. If I have the benefit of getting in their head for a while, that's even better. But I don't always have that. Sometimes I have to settle for whatever I can read online somewhere. And then I will take whatever I learned and I will go apply it just like I would apply anything else. And I will begin with the belief that it's going to work. I'm not going to go in there tentative like, geez, I hope this works, or I don't know whether this will work or not. I'm going to go in there with the belief that it worked for that person. I know what they did. It worked for them. They are subject to the same universal laws as I am. I mean, the fact of the matter is gravity does not discriminate. It's going to treat you the same way it treats me. Well, universal laws are going to treat you the same way they treat me. They do not discriminate. So if I want to achieve something, all I got to do is go break it down, find someone who's done it, break it down into the laws, the principles that they use, duplicate those principles, and by law, it has to be returned to me in the same way it was returned to them. So that's my belief. That's how I act on it. And it's been the only thing that I've ever done. I mean, I haven't done anything other than that. And consequently, I've got about 3,000 books in here. I read a lot of books, and they turned my life around, and they've made a tremendous influence on me. And that's why I'm so privileged to be able to share my books with other people, because they can impact people the way books have impacted me.
That's so awesome. It's so inspiring, Vic. I really appreciate you spending time with us today. And I'm just feeling so grateful for you to share all this wisdom coming through. It's just amazing. And before you go, I know people would love to find out more about the work that you're working on right now and where they can connect with you and learn even more.
Well, our flagship site, the one that you referred to earlier, still today delivers As a Man Thinketh. We've given away over 400,000 copies of that. And asamanthinketh.net, asamanthinketh.net, asamanthinketh.net. And we got a number of sites, and they can go there and they can download the book. And by doing that, they'll get on our list. They'll find out about the other things that we offer. But it's a book that can change your life. James Allen wrote it in 1902. It's the most powerful 28 pages in literary history. I won't go into the whole story because I know we're running out of time, but I got that book one night. I picked it off my shelf in the middle of that miserable time I was having, and I began to read it, and it was so impressive. I had a yellow highlighter, and the first time through I was highlighting all these passages, and I finished about 2:00 in the morning. It's not a very long book, but I started late that night, and I read it, and I got up the next morning and I said, geez, was all that I read last night, was that really that good? So the second night, I got a pink highlighter and I read it again, and I highlighted everything that stuck out then. And the third night, I'm going, that was incredible. So I got a green highlighter. Well, I've still got that, and it is a mess because there's so much wisdom in there. Almost every word is highlighted in some color. And you've read the book, so you know. Powerful, powerful book based on the proverb, as a man or as a person thinketh in his heart, so is he. And it's so true. And, so I would love to have your folks have a copy of that, because it is a great book.
Awesome. I totally agree. It's one of the best books I've ever read. And like you said, it's short but powerful, and every word, every sentence, every phrase, just
absolutely
soak in that wisdom. It will change your life.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Vic, for sharing your time with us. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate you. You're a great guy, Tom. Talk to you later.
Thank you. Take care.